Hey everyone, Milkman Al here. I'm fresh out of the gym and I am dehydrated. Guess what? You are probably dehydrated too. How do I know that? Well, most of you are Americans, which means you are dirty, filthy creatures with terrible diet habits, just like me. But the way that I really know that is that most people are dehydrated pretty much all the time. Your body has about 60% water, depending on how old you are. Little babies have more, old people have less, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But that means that a standard 200-ish pound guy like me has about 120 pounds of fluid, or 55 kilos or so, of fluid just kind of hanging out in your body. Do you drink enough to maintain that? Most people don't. So let's talk about fluid status today, shall we? But before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me live on Wednesdays and Sundays. You can also join Discord if you have any questions. So first, let's define what we mean by fluid status. So in medicine, when we talk about fluid status, basically, we're just talking about your hydration. So like I said, about 60% of your body should be water. Maybe it's more than that, maybe it's less. Babies needed about 70% water, and elderly people have about 50% body water. And it pretty much decreases gradually with time. And that's just normal. But some people need more, some people need less, just like anything else. So how do you maintain a healthy fluid status? Well, primarily you eat and drink. Mostly drink. And the vast majority of people do not drink anywhere near enough water. So if you do the calculation for something that we call maintenance fluids, which is how much fluid you need if you're just kind of laying around in bed doing nothing, that's roughly your weight in kilograms plus 40 every hour. So for me, again, 90 kilogram guy, that'd be about 130 mils per hour. And there are calculators online that you can plug numbers into and get a little bit more exact result, but that's good enough for napkin math. So basically, if you want to fire up a calculator, which we will do here, you'll see that maintenance fluid is actually a pretty big number. So I'm 90 kilos plus 40, so that's 130 times 24. So I need to take in about 3 liters of fluid just to maintain every single day. Now, to be fair, you do get a fair amount of fluid from the food that you eat. And depending on where you look, that's anywhere from about 10 to 20% of your total body water. And clearly that depends on your diet and a whole bunch of other things. But anyway, there is a significant amount of your fluid requirement that is met by your diet instead of just straight up drinking water. But again, this is just for people who are literally sitting in bed doing nothing. So if you're active, if you exercise, you need way more than this. And this is kind of hard to do, right? It's difficult to take in that much water if you're not actively thinking about it. I think about it all the time, and I probably do this most days, but not always. And, it's just kind of hard to have a big container of water around with you all the time. So why do we care? Why is this important? So hydration is extremely important for lots of things, as you might imagine. Most of your organs are made of water. Again, you have 60% of your body overall that's water. Water helps with digestion. So your stomach churns everything up into kind of a pulp. But if that pulp is just like a dry ball of mush, it's a lot harder for it to squish all that stuff around. So if you've got some water in your stomach, that's very helpful to get all of your food digested. It also helps you absorb water-soluble nutrients, which is most things. Things like vitamin A, D, E, and K, I believe, are the fat-soluble nutrients. So most things are water-soluble, and so you need water to absorb those. Similarly, most biological chemical reactions, meaning enzyme effects and just normal cell processes, take place in water. So if your body is dehydrated, your body's not going to work quite as well. You also have something called intravascular volume, which, as you can see here, is 3-ish liters, probably a little bit more than that, actually. But it's really important that you maintain that because that's how your blood gets pumped through your body. So all of your cells get nourished with oxygen, with nutrients, and all that sort of stuff. But if your blood is basically dehydrated sludge, it's a lot harder for your cells to get the nourishment that they need and to work properly. So basically, it helps your body function on all levels to be properly hydrated. So how can you tell if your hydration status is good? Well, probably the easiest one is the color of your pee. So pee should be relatively like lemon juice-ish, like maybe a little bit yellow, but mostly clear. So if your pee is dark, Drink more water. You're dehydrated. Other ways that you can tell your hydration status is something called capillary refill. So you squeeze your finger, go like that, and if it turns from white to red really quickly, that means you have good capillary refill. That's more clinical than anything that you would see day to day. You have to be pretty dehydrated for your capillary refill to be poor. The other more extreme things are like dry mucous membrane, so like if your mouth is constantly dry, same, with your nose or something. If you're not sweating when you should be, those are sort of extreme signs that you're dehydrated, and realistically not something that you'll deal with day to day. So do the pee test. If your pee is really dark and concentrated, you're dehydrated. So sort of an obvious question that follows this is there a time when it's bad to be hydrated? Can you drink too much water? And the answer is definitely yes. Yes, you can. So I think we've probably all heard of people doing weird frat stunts where they just like chug 5 gallons of water or something and wind up in the hospital. That's really stupid, for starters. What it does is it basically causes an acute shift in your electrolyte concentrations, most likely sodium, and pretty much shuts your body down because you don't have a high enough concentration of those important electrolytes to run your cells. And you can definitely die from that. Renal failure is another instance where hydrating aggressively is potentially pretty dangerous because your kidneys, in that case, have failed and can't process fluid the way that they're supposed to. Now, normally fluid is really good for your kidneys. Drinking more water is excellent because it helps flush out stuff from your kidneys. And kind of in a literal sense, like drinking a whole bunch of water and hydrating aggressively will literally push things through kidneys much like you'd push hair through a drain or something like that and clear them out and help them function better. But if they've already failed, then they can't maintain your fluid homeostasis, for a fancy word, maintain your like normal fluid balance the way that they should, and therefore all of your fluid's just going to build up, and then you run into electrolyte problems like we mentioned before. And that's no good. Then you have to go to a dialysis clinic and they take off a bunch of fluid and stuff. So don't do that. If you have renal failure, do not hydrate aggressively. Same thing with heart failure. So if your heart's failing, you are in a volume overload basically, and you can't process fluid properly, similar to kidney failure. And you're going to tax your heart further and possibly put yourself into what we call a heart failure exacerbation, which means you need to be admitted to the hospital to get fluid off of yourself so that your heart can actually function normally, because it can't pump against that pressure that you've created with that extra fluid. So what do you do about this? How do you hydrate better? Well, the easiest thing, drink more water. Now, things like sodas don't really count, because the whole idea here is that you're trying to bring water into your body instead of bringing it out. And most of the time, things like tea, coffee, soda, they either have diuretics in them, namely caffeine, which make you pee more, or they are what we would call hypertonic, which means they have a higher concentration of electrolytes than your body, and so water will preferentially flow into your gut instead of from your gut out into your body, to kind of equalize the electrolyte volumes. That's an osmotic chemistry thing, so don't worry about it. But yeah, bottom line, if you're trying to hydrate, drink water. Don't drink Gatorade, don't drink Pedialyte, any of that stuff, just drink water. If you're eating normally, water is exactly what you need. Also, unfortunately, things like alcohol are really bad for you. They directly cause you to waste water by inhibiting a hormone called antidiuretic hormone that your kidneys use to retain water and maintain your fluid balance. So they inhibit that hormone, and you just pee a lot. So everybody knows that, right? You drink a ton of beers and you piss like a racehorse and everything's cool. But if it's hydration you're looking for, not a good idea. So there you have it, folks. Quick and dirty review of hydration and body fluid status. Hopefully that was interesting for you. I'll see you guys next weekend. Don't forget to join the Discord. Like and subscribe. Thanks. Cheers.